What's one habit people think is normal but you find secretly disgusting? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1. Not really normal per se, more a result of laziness, but littering. Here in the UK, there's so much litter on the streets and main roadsides, it's absolutely awful. Edit, spelling, grammar. Story 2. I'd have a shiver run down my spine anytime I was working a cashier job and an older woman pulled out money from her bra to pay for something. Edit, spelling. Also, WTF, didn't expect this many responses. Story 3. Double parking. It's such a rampant problem in NYC, and it infuriates me to no end, especially when there is room for the car to have pulled over to the curb just 1 or 2 car lengths ahead of where they have chosen to stop. It ties up traffic and creates a road hazard. And it's just incredibly inconsiderate, which is the disgusting part. Honestly, how full of yourself do you have to be to just stop in the middle of traffic and think, yeah, this is all right? Yuck. Story 4. Playing music on speaker on public transport. I don't know if it's classic Apple where people won't just buy cheap earphones if they can't afford lose their AirPods, but it's the worst thing ever. Story 5. I was once sharing a bag of Cheetos with a friend. Most of us know that after a bit, you get the Cheeto dust on your fingers. I watched my friend suck the Cheeto dust off of their fingers and then dip back into the bag. I was horrified. In an instance of sharing, the licking the Cheeto dust off of your fingers signifies that you are done snacking. No more dipping into the bag. After they did that, I just gave them the bag. I was so disgusted. Story 6. Strangers, mostly elderly people, who feel the need to touch my arm or shoulder when they are talking to me. It happens way more often than you think. I work in service, so I get that quite a bit from customers, mostly elderly. Story 7. Letting other people know they're trying for a baby. All I hear is, "We're having tons of unprotected you guys. D, I don't need to know. Just tell me when pregnancy is underway. I'll figure out how it happened on my own." Story 8. Standing instead of sitting to pee. You know perfectly well that not everything is in one tidy stream, and some of it is going everywhere, regardless of how good your aim is. And we both know that sometimes it isn't. Plus, some will sometimes splash out. Story 9. Not washing their hands after using the bathroom. 90% of people believe you should wash your hands after using the bathroom, but only 60% actually do. I don't understand how people can do that and be okay. I don't feel comfortable using my hands on anything until I'm sure my hands are clean. Story 10. Sucking on your fingers after eating something, specifically sucking each one until they basically turn into prunes. Why would you want to suck nasty out from underneath your fingernails? WTF is wrong with people. We have napkins for a reason. Story 11. If you're cooking and tasting the food as you go, why would you directly eat from the utensils you're using to stir? Or put your finger directly into the pot? Or reuse the same tasting spoon? It's one thing if you're just cooking for yourself, but doing that is straight up nasty if you're cooking for other people. I see this all the time, and that's why I don't eat everybody's food. Story 12. One habit I find secretly disgusting, though many consider it normal, is when people don't cover their mouths while coughing or sneezing. It's unsanitary and rude, yet so common. Another offender? Leaving the toilet seat up, it's just inconsiderate. But perhaps the most cringeworthy is people not washing their hands properly after using the bathroom. Basic hygiene, folks. Story 13. Very niche, but not washing your hair before your hair appointment. And before you get your panties in a wad, this applies to very particular services. If you know you're getting just a haircut and will be getting a shampoo before the haircut, sure, go hog wild. But there's always the one lady who shows up with 9-day-old hair who just came from hot yoga and I worked in the garden, then rolled in dog, but I hear color takes better on dirty hair. Shut up. You're just disgusting and do not respect the people who provide you a service. That's like not brushing your teeth before you go to the dentist because they're going to clean them anyway. No, you're just gross. And yes, we do talk about you to our coworkers. Story 14. Yawning and not covering their mouth. I don't need to see all your dental work. My husband does this possibly on purpose now because he knows I hate it. If I'm within arm's reach of him during a yawn, I poke him on the tongue because he's paralyzed mid-yawn, just to make a pointless point. He hates it, so I guess that makes us even. This is how marriage works, right? Story 15. Keeping your toothbrush in the bathroom without even a cover on it. I keep mine in my room because I'm disgusted by the thought of someone taking a dump and the smelly, poopy air touching my toothbrush. Our toilet also has a bit of water splash back when it flushes, and everyone keeps their toothbrush on the sink, which is right next to the toilet, and they keep them on the side closest to the toilet. I know for a fact that their toothbrushes have had pee-pee and poo-poo water touch those bristles. Ugh! I can't stand it. It's so icky to me. Story 16. Long fingernails, fake fingernails, or fingernails that don't look sanitary. I'm sorry, I don't want your hand germs. I love a good mani, but I like mine short and natural. Grossed out also thinking of what's accumulated under your long nails there. Ugh, where have those nails been? Story 17, long nails. I especially can't stand it when people making your food have super long nails. It was even worse in the days before people started wearing gloves when doing food prep. I remember some lady with like 2 acrylics making me a Subway sandwich many, many years ago. I still think about that sometimes and it makes me throw up in my mouth a little. LOL. Story 18. I went to a party at a friend's house once and stayed behind to clean up with a few others. She'd had a bowl of popcorn out, and when I went to throw away the dregs of the bowl, maybe a cup of popcorn bits, they all freaked out and had me pour it back into the original bag instead. Apparently, everyone but me saves the 50 cents worth of leftover popcorn / pretzels / chips that everyone's been sticking their hands in all night and adds it back to the original bag. Story 19. Living in China, so to me it's the spitting. Everywhere you go, someone is always preparing to spit the most disgusting, phlegmy spit out. You literally cannot go 1 minute without hearing it. No matter how long I've been here, I will never get used to it. Story 20. Going out anytime in your pajamas. I hate going to Walmart in Apple Valley, pajamas, leggings, and stuff. I am afraid of being 86 days from the Walmart, or actually anywhere in that area, for making a disgusting comment. I moved to where people actually get dressed when the leaves the house. Story 21. My mom has a bad habit of loudly FaceTiming in restaurants. Her fiancé is born Sicilian Italian, and our family is Italian American, and I don't think she realizes when she switches languages, she tends to speak twice as loud. So the stereotype about Italians being incapable of being quiet in a restaurant will be perpetuated until the heat death of the universe. Story 22. This is just a personal issue for me, but I absolutely hate it when people talk to me when I'm eating. Partly it's the intrusion into what is ultimately a personal activity, but it also completely ruins the enjoyment of the food. This has become even more of an issue for me recently, as a quiet meal is just about the only joy I have left in life. Story 23. Smoking in public, specifically around people who aren't smoking at the moment. No, this isn't a no-smoking area, but would it hurt you to step away until you're done, so your nasty smoke doesn't irritate a dozen other people? Story 24. I certainly don't secretly find it disgusting, but people coughing into their hand. I hate to tell you, but that's not the magical black hole you think it is, and all of those germs are now concentrated on that hand. You're probably not going to wash and go directly touch common use things that we all have to also touch. It is baffling to me people think this is a good way to contain their coughs. Story 25. Not necessarily a habit, but in cooking videos when people rub lemon zest into sugar with their hands. Thank you for using it as a sugar scrub and flavoring the lemon bundt cake with your dead skin particles. Story 26. Using air hand dryers in the restroom has always grossed me out. It may not be true, but I heard once that they just grow bacteria and then blast it all over your hands and haven't been able to use one since. Story 27. As someone who has worked at a few different restaurants, using gloves is much less sanitary than just washing your hands a lot. Gloves don't get changed nearly as often as they should be, whereas without them, if you have something on your hands, you're going to wash them. Story 28. There's been a huge uptick recently of people bringing their dogs into places like the supermarket and clothing stores. My late partner had a severe phobia of dogs. Service dogs weren't a huge issue for him because he knew they had to be trained. But I've encountered dozens of untrained dogs in stores over the last few years, and really, they can spend a little time at home, surely. Story 29. Loud burping and farting in public and acting like it's the most normal thing ever. God forbid say "excuse me" or something. I will never, ever, ever be understanding of that. Burp with your mouth closed and hold the damn fart in public. People are nasty. Story 30. Listening to loud music in public. Last time I went to the beach, I had some young kids listening to horrible rap on one side of me and rednecks listening to horrible pop country music on the other side. I came to the beach to relax and listen to the waves. Story 31. I get really creeped out when other people touch my laundry. It was well after children that I finally became okay with my husband moving the laundry from the washer to the dryer, or moving the dirty clean basket with clothes in it. I could not tell you why, it just grossed me out. Story 32. People spitting randomly on the ground. I do not understand the impulse to do this and I find it vile. Ugh, also people who constantly chew gum with their mouths open, even when they're holding conversations, like a cow chewing cud. I actually can't look at them. I find it spine-shiveringly gross, LOL. Story 33. Answering a question starting with "so." No, you need to say something first before the word "so" would make sense. Also the need to say "ah" when you're talking and need to think of the right word. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau uses the very annoying ah 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 ah. Story 34. Having a conversation with a customer while I'm ringing them up, or when a worker tries to have a conversation with me when I'm a customer. I don't want to know about your day. I'm here to sell you/buy an item, and that's all. Do not ask me about my day. I'm not particularly interested. It's not that I'm mean or anything. I just prefer for you not to encroach on my personal space. Story 35. Less disgusting and more infuriating is when people litter when they could have simply wait to throw away their trash in a bin. Or when people yawn without covering their mouths, or guys who don't clean under their nails or pee on walls and bushes and want to come and touch you without washing their hands. Story 36. People are about to get in their feelings, but this is the hill that I will die on. Wearing shoes inside the home is disgusting. Yes, I am yelling loudly, and I want to yell IRL as well. Instead, I muzzle my judgmental fury so as not to offend people in our social circle. If you keep your outdoor shoes on inside your home, I am secretly judging you. Fair or not, I assume that you do not wash your hands properly after using the restroom and are otherwise unsanitary. I will not eat a meal cooked in your home or the baked goods you bring to share in the office. Story 37. Apparently picking your nose is considered normal by a lot of people. Get a tissue. It's disgusting. I hate the whole, there are two types of people. Those that admit to picking their nose and liars mantra I see on here way too many times. Makes me realize there is an uncomfortable amount of people out there just going all in, unrepentant. I don't pick my nose, and I find it quite easy to get through life without doing so. Story 38, I have OCD. You don't want me to answer this question. But since you're brought it up, LOL, if you use paper towel to clean something up and then grab more paper towel from that roll with your now dirty hand, you have dirtied the following sheets of paper towel. Especially if you need to use your hand to stop it from falling out so you can rip off the piece you want. Story 39. Commenting in any way, shape, or form about what a parent should be doing differently with their baby. Unless the parent in question is literally in the process of beating their kid, please STFU and keep your comments to yourself. Special hate for strangers who comment about your baby while doing a talking for the baby voice. Story 40. Not washing hands after using the restroom. Now I say this, and most reasonable people would be like, yeah, duh, it's normal to wash your hands. But I cannot even tell you how many times I have went into the restroom to do my business and other people just walking from the urinal or even the stall and just leaving. Like, they don't even do the half-ass pretend to wash hands by running water thing that I also have seen people do, which is a whole other discussion. TLDR, wash your hands, please, OMG. Story 41. I moved to an urban area from a rural one, and the biggest change for me was how often I see people cough into their hands. Not just old people or children, honest to God, college young adults just hacking into their hands and then moving on without a care. At dining halls, in class, on the buses, etc. It's disgusting, and it makes me cringe every time I see it. Story 42. Well, IDK, how many people do it? But some people in my family have touched food they're serving to others with their bare hands, including food that isn't even meant to be handled with bare hands. For example, melted cheese. My dad is one of those people. I've seen him do things with his fingers like pick at stuff in his mouth, scratch his ear with a finger, then sniff it, scratch the inside of his nose, stick his finger into his belly button. And those are just the things I've seen him do. I don't care if he just took a shower. I don't want him touching my food with his bare hands. And I told another family member not to touch food with bare hands, and she kept trying to excuse it. But my hands are clean. It's still gross. But we're family. It's still gross. Being family doesn't magically make it not gross. Story 43. Was in line outside a car wash this morning when the guy in the pickup truck in front of me rolls his window down and spits, then rolls it back up. It reminded me that seeing men randomly spit on the ground in public always makes my stomach churn, and I don't get how they're conditioned to think it's ordinary behavior. Story 44. Walking around with your cell phone on speakerphone because everyone needs to hear your conversation. Happens in the hallways, at the store, everywhere now. It's a disease. Can you not go somewhere without needing to speak to mommy or daddy the entire time? This is double for those who play music on their phones loudly in public because they assume their musical tastes are without fault and everyone loves the garbage they listen to. Story 45. Unmanicured hands, nails all different lengths, dirt under fingernails, jagged nails, hangnails, and horrible-looking cuticles. One of the first things I notice in people is their hands. If you can't properly take care of your hands to make them look clean, filed, and presentable, I don't want to know what the hell else you are unable to properly take care of on your body. And feet, when someone takes off their socks to reveal long-ass toenails and crusty feet or another thing. People who floss their teeth in other areas of the house besides the bathroom and leave their floss around their house. You're just flinging your mouth bits all over the room. It's disgusting. Story 46, chewing. Not necessarily loud chewing, which I find unsavory and absolutely revolting. Just the sound of chewing in general, sometimes even the sounds I make when I chew. It disgusts me, and I don't even know why. Story 47. Harass bullying people or deny employment to people because they wearing face masks. Sorry, cannot afford to be sick, plus with my face etc. dental etc. so not looking good at all. Face mask staying on which also prevents me from making you sick. Story 48. People smoking in public. I smell your smoke. I know it's not your fault you have the habit. It's like water. I get it. But you, if you're doing it in a public place, yes, parking lots count. I have to walk through the parking lot to get to the grocery store. Take that somewhere else, please, for fuck's sake. I grew up around two smokers who did it inside the house. I have irrational anger when I smell it. Please stop in public places. Tie. Story 49. Eating while carrying on a conversation, like adjusting food in mouth while speaking. Not nibbling, taking their time, pondering the magnificence of our shared moment, swallowing and continuing the conversation. Just rant, chomp, chomp. Story 50, this is very common. I work at an airport, and when I have my phone to my ear having a conversation, regardless of the importance, and someone walks up to me asking for directions or simple questions, the sign next to them could have answered, with or without saying excuse me. It's rude. A sign not only written but also illustrated to ease the navigations. Story 51. Here in Brazil, people, not all, have the habit of spitting phlegm on the street. I always found it extremely disgusting and unnecessary. Not even when I'm sick and putting phlegm out do I do something like that on the street, and if I need it urgently, at least look for a manhole to spit in and it goes down into the sewer. But no, they spit on the sidewalk until someone steps on it or it simply evaporates in the sun. Story 52. Reading many comments about litter here, I have to give my unpopular opinion. People love complaining about litter, but I rarely see anyone do something about it themselves. A couple of times a year when the sun's out, my kids and I grab a large bag and our garbage gripper stick and go around the neighborhood. Within less than 2 hours, you can have easily filled the bag up completely. And for us, well, we just make it a fun game as my kids are still very young, 5 yo. I'd like to teach my kids a valuable lesson that if we don't take action ourselves, that litter isn't going anywhere. In live, something you are the only catalyst to make things happen. People love looking at disgust to that tin can lying around, but it isn't going to move itself. Yet nothing happens. They will walk by it for months and keep complaining about the litter. That's the habit I find secretly disgusting. A bit of added nuance here. The litter problem in our neighborhood is highly manageable. In case your streets are a complete dump and the problem really is too big to manage by yourselves, I can understand single individuals can't even start with cleaning up themselves. Story 53. Owning a Dodge Charger with the obnoxiously loud performance packages and driving it like a complete, especially in residential neighborhoods. My neighborhood used to be absolutely lousy with these dipshits, and thankfully it seems like most of these have either wrecked them or got them repossessed because they bought it with a 550 credit score and couldn't afford the $1,699 monthly payments and insurance for their overpriced tiny dick compensation apparatus. I like fast cars. I even like loud cars in the appropriate setting, like a car meet or at the track. There's something about a high-powered V8 engine sound that is almost musical, as long as it's not at like 2 a.m. ripping down my street when I have work in the morning. Also, anyone who gets a tune on their car that makes it pop and backfire every time they lift off the accelerator is a tool. You're actively hindering the performance of the vehicle just to make it sound like Fallujah while you drive to the goddamn grocery store. Story 54. Chewing with open mouth. Every now and then some sort of sound is obviously okay. I still hate that, but understand that. But some people just eat like absolute animals. We had a guy living with us for a couple of months, and every time he was eating something, I've had to leave the room because the sounds coming from him made me feel physically sick. The noises he was making have been absolutely unimaginable. A pig has great manners compared to him. And I'm not exaggerating. It was that bad. Story 55. People who flush the toilet with the lid open. It's one thing if the toilet is like a public one and it doesn't have a lid on it. I get it. It can't be helped. That being said, if it has a lid and you just don't close it before flushing, that's just kind of nasty. You're putting toilet particles all over the room, including yourself. Also, while I'm talking about toilets, for the love of God, if the water starts rising, don't flush it again. Most toilets physically don't hold enough water in the cistern to overflow the bowl from a single flush. So in most cases, if you overflowed a toilet, it was your own fault. Disclaimer, using the royal you here, not directly addressing OP with all of this. Story 56. Eating in bed, that is nasty. Like, didn't you already brush your teeth? Aren't you going to get crumbs and in the bed? Wearing outdoor shoes in the house? You have any idea how much nasty is on the bottom of your shoes you just brought into the house? And then finally, the piece de la resistance, wearing shoes on the bed. Bringing all that nasty from outside right into bed with you, where you eat. Story 57. Not keeping a clean living space. I understand clutter and dust, but people just throwing trash on the floor and leaving it everywhere when you either A, live with other humans, or B, invited me over to your house. I understand no energy to like clean, but not having old food and garbage everywhere seems like a must when you aren't the only person in your area. Story 58. Something I've noticed recently is that many people seem to have absolutely zero awareness, much less concern for the people around them anymore. I went to the market and to Costco last Friday, and people stand in the middle of the aisle on their phones, park their carts blocking entire sections. They move around erratically with no regard to other people, come zooming around blind corners, ram their carts into you. I am usually a very patient person, but there was this young couple running around, and one of them turned on her heel and ran right into me. It is doubly frustrating as someone who tries to be extra cautious of those around me because I'm a big guy, 6'4", 250 pounds, and would absolutely plow through someone if I ran around with no regard for those around me, like I see other people doing. Story 59. Stopping in front of a store, restaurant to either run in and grab your order or wait for the person you're picking up to leave the store. And the parking lot is literally 10 feet away. You're taking up a whole lane of traffic. We can't see people walking in and out of the building. Move! One of my biggest pet peeves. Edit. Couldn't think of what the lane is called where they stop and sit. It's the fire lane. Story 60. Especially in the men's locker room at the gym, making a hacking sound with your mouth to gather saliva to spit out, then spitting it out. Also, being naked in the gym locker room. I think it's disgusting. I'm always wearing at least a towel and can change with it on. Story 61-1. Sampling food with the spoon you are using to stir it with. 2. Being nosy in strangers' business. 3. Taking their shoes off and resting their bare feet on the shared desk at work. 4. Smacking your lips as you eat. 5. Being rude to people for no other reason than because you want to be rude. Story 62. Using their phone in the bathroom. I just can't. I'd feel like my phone was dirty and that I'd need to wash my hands every time I use my phone. I hate it when people hand me their phones because it seems like the majority of people do this, and I feel like I should go wash my hands before touching anything else. Story 63. I don't like to reuse towels. I have around 15 and do a load of them once a week. It's just how I was raised, and then I had a roommate in college that never washed his, and it stank so bad. I know that it's probably fine to wash them once a week or whatever people do, but it still just makes me think of that smelly smell. Story 64. The one that really gets me is when people sniff really hard when their nose is runny instead of just blowing their nose. Rather than take a moment to grab a tissue and solve the problem, just repeatedly snort your snot and swallow it. So gross. I understand if you don't have access to anything, but otherwise I find it lazy and disgusting. Story 65. This might sound weird, but wearing closed-toed shoes. You're just trapping all of the nasty foot smells and air and sweat in your shoe. That's why shoes and feet smell so bad. I always wear slides even in the winter, but I can understand why people wear closed-toed shoes in the winter. It just grosses me out. Story 66 could be cultural, but at the nail salon I go to, the men will openly pick their nose and casually wipe it on their pants. If they go outside to smoke, they cough up phlegm and spit it on the ground, or cover one nostril and forcefully blow it without using a tissue. I told my nail tech, and she just giggled. Story 67. Sharing drinks and foods when you aren't related or in a relationship. I see people in school just taking bites out of each other's foods where they bit. This other time, this guy literally just took my water bottle and drank from it with his lips while I was playing basketball, and he was confused why I was annoyed he just drank from my water. Story 68. Not showering for a week. You'd think that was common sense, but it's not, apparently. I mean, I get being depressed. I used to do that as well, but come on. My nostrils are being assaulted by some people's tendency to stay dirty. And ATP. I think it's astonishing how they don't realize they smell bad. Story 69. A person talking loudly on the phone in public transpose. Keep your voice down or tell the person you're in transit and can't talk loudly or use earphones. When someone's playing their sound trip in public transpo, use earphones, headsets. When a person flexes that she is in a relationship with multiple people, disgusting. Story 70. When I see people split chewing gum, they've been masticating for a few hours with a friend who immediately puts half of it in their mouths. Doesn't even matter if they're married and have put way worse in their mouths. That crap grosses me TF out. I really don't even like seeing it wadded up and stuck on their teeth when they laugh or open their mouths to yawn or WE. Story 71, cheating. I was in class one day and some of my classmates were talking about cheating on their partners like it was a normal and okay thing to do. I never have understood, or nor will I understand what's so appealing about cheating on someone you apparently love. And when people treat it like sport, I have no sympathy for whatever befalls them for their actions. Story 72. Not washing your hands first thing when you come back home. It surprised me so much when I found out it was not a routine in this much home. One day, I understood one of my ex-friend and her boyfriend never did, which I already find disgusting. Nevertheless, she took the subway to work, but she told me later in another conversation how they had their why times, mostly just when they just got home, which means unwashed hands, hands with fingers, huge EWW. Like close the door, put the keys where they belongs on, put your bag purse down, slash coat slash shoes off of hands, and then yes, pee most of the time, and yes, it means hands again. I cannot do other way. Don't touch anything without washing your hands when you come from the outside, God. Story 73. Co-worker at Domino's doesn't use gloves when making a pizza. Now I get the whole, it's fine if you wash your hands, but he doesn't even do that. He also smokes. Yikes. One time he had a very bad cold and was touching everything without gloves. Maybe the heat from the oven kills all the germs, but Jesus. If I saw a video of him making my pizza like that after eating it, I would throw up for days. Story 74. Hand sanitizer in place of washing hands when washing your hands is available. I hate the feel of hand sanitizer and I only use it if there's no other alternative. I'd rather use a wet nap any day of the week. But if you're somewhere that you could easily use a sink and you know your hands are gross, don't just squirt some lemon-scented goo on them. Story 75. Using floss picks. It's good that people are flossing, but don't they just move the gunk from one toothpaste to another? I have to use a mile-long piece of floss to make sure I can use a fresh piece between each tooth. Story 76. As a person who is repulsed by the sight of feet, people wearing open sandals on public transport with their toes shooting out in all directions right in front of God and everybody. I don't want to see people's grotesque leg hands. Put some goddamn shoes on. Keep the sandals on your own property. Story 77. I start literally gagging when people use fingernail clippers. I don't really know why. It has something to do with the sound of it or maybe cutting off a dead part of the body. I'm forced to cut my toenails once every few weeks because I can't rip them off with my fingers. I use my other nails to cut a lip into the longer fingernails and pull on them directly into a trash can, thereby making no noise. Story 78. Taking your water or food into the bathroom. When I'm in public, I will either leave my water bottle with my husband outside the door if there is a drinking fountain, or if I do take it in the bathroom, it stays by the sink and not in the stall with me. At home, when I'm getting ready for bed, I will leave my water in the hall and go to the bathroom before going upstairs and getting ready for bed. Story 79. I hate it when people double dip. It's like you're putting your whole mouth in the dip. I always tell them from now on, just take one dip and end it. Once even got in a fight about it with some blad jerk with glasses at a funeral. They kicked him out. Serves him right. Story 80. Taking long showers. I find it disgusting when someone wastes hundreds of liters of hot water just because they like it, when the warm water runs down on their body. I don't mean something like 10 minutes, but 1 hour. There was a guy on Reddit who wrote that he needs this hour in the shower because it's his time. I consider it selfish and bad for environment. Story 81. Going to Disney parks as an adult. Took my 3- and 1-year-old and most of the people there were weird 30-year-olds acting like children. Grow up, it's very weird and disgusting to see adults literally acting like children. It would be equally weird to go to the children's section at the library to find 30-year-olds dressed in children's clothes reading kids' books with a baby voice. But if it happens at Disney, it's for some reason not frowned upon. Story 82, nose picking. People do it all the time, driving, scrolling their phones, even mid-conversation like it's no big deal. They'll flick it away or roll it into a little ball and think nobody notices. It's not just the act, it's the casual denial afterward. Like they didn't just mine their face for gold. We've all got boogers, sure, but there's a tissue and a private moment for that. Keep it out of the public talent show. Ha ha ha. Story 83. I own a business that cleans parking lots. And FWIW, I'm not complaining, since it's job, client security. A rising amount of people feel like it's okay to just unload a couple weeks' worth of Chipotle and Mexi's trash in a huge pile next to their car. There's always been trash and debris, but after COVID, people just throw anything and everything on the ground for someone else to pick up or deal with. During COVID was insane. The amount of masks, gloves, and anything disposable was just strewn everywhere. Even if trash cans were close by, people would get to their cars and just peel everything off onto the ground. Something you might not expect. Shoes. Always shoes. Like a person just grabs a fresh set of sneakers at Walmart and can't be bothered to wait to get home to change. They just leave the old ones in the middle of a parking lot. Story 84. Not washing hands after touching food or eating. Like if you eat a bunch of fries or chips or anything really, and all you do is wipe your hands on a napkin or on your pants, that's so disgusting. Go wash your hands FFS, even if you just run your hands under water. And then they take those dirty, greasy hands and touch other things with them, like their face or people or door handles. It's not even about germs for me. My germophobia is limited to common sense things like washing hands after using the toilet and basic food safety. What it's really about is leaving residue on themselves, people, items, and now I potentially have to touch those items, and now I have freaking potato chip grease on my hands. Go ahead and lick your fingers to savor the Cheeto dust, I do, but then wash your hands. Story 85. I wouldn't find this disgusting, but simply annoying. When people favorite their own posts, you post stuff on platforms like TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat, and all those other social medias to get others' opinions, not for you to rate yourself in a biased manner like that. With platforms like Reddit, where it automatically upvotes your comments/posts, I don't find it annoying because it automatically does it, and most just leave it instead of downvoting your own content. I know many will get mad or frustrated with my comment, but just remember you checked out this post to see what others were disgusted at, not to hate on one person because it's something you do. Story 86. Eating while preparing food. Acting like washing your hands after touching 10 surfaces or handles after handling raw chicken is okay. My husband eats the garbage part of the food like the lettuce end, the middle of the pineapple, or my burned pizza crusts, gristle, or fat. Stuff off the floor, too. I don't know if people think that's normal, but it literally repulses and sometimes even angers me, like if it's my son. I don't know why he wants to do it, knowing I find him disgusting. Story 87. Texting while driving. Getting real close to a cyclist trying to pass them, or parking in the bike lane so that they have to go around you and cut into incoming traffic that they have to turn all the way around to see before doing so. People are in such a rush to save a few microseconds of travel time that they have zero regard for other people's safety. Story 88. Having a dirty car full of napkins, junk food wrappers, and stuff piled up on the floorboards, dusty dashboard, mystery sticky spills, and food stomped into the carpets. I've been in so many of these kind of cars, and I know it isn't easy to keep up with, especially if you have kids. But it sure is nice to hop into someone's car and find it clean and nice smelling. Story 89. Sneezing in the hand or midair. You'd be surprised by how many do it if you pay attention. I always sneeze in my elbows or a tissue if available. I only sneeze midair if I'm holding something with both hands and it happens too suddenly. But some people deliberately do it because they don't care no matter how many times you explain to them how germs work. When my dad brought COVID to the family, I stayed away from him, and I managed to avoid getting infected, unlike everyone else in the family, all of which sneeze midair as well. Story 90. Eating while talking. I absolutely can't stand the sound of someone trying to disguise the fact they have food in their mouth while still trying to talk. Pushing it to one side of your mouth like a chipmunk doesn't work. I can't stand it, especially when I'm on the phone with someone and they're doing it. Story 91. Having a raging, uncontrollable cough and not wearing a mask in public and touching everything. It's disgusting to hear someone's nasty mucus rattling around in their lungs and throat, knowing they are then violently expelling all the air mucked up with that virus or bacteria all over everybody around. I have lost faith in most of society. People have propelled this time a flu epidemic, killing primarily infants and elderly people, and people who have fragile health due to major disabilities or medical concerns such as cancer or being an organ transplant recipient. They don't give a for anybody but themselves. I'm speaking strictly of people with the intellectual capacity to understand that there is a chance they may have a contagious respiratory illness. This is a concept children can grasp now before middle school. They ice the cake by hacking their nasty, chunky cough that literally turns my stomach right in my face. They ramble on in between hacks about how sick they are with no regard for the fact that for as terrible as they feel, they refuse to take a few simple precautions to prevent others from getting that sick. Wear a mask, use hand sanitizer, say less, because the rambling just causes more coughing and more forceful expelling of viral air. Wash your hands and stop touching a bunch of in public places when you're sick that you have no need to touch. Don't go anywhere you don't have to go. It's disgusting to me, but it's impossible to change. Story 92. Gossiping, talking trash behind someone's back, specifically to more than a handful of close friends, family, and or in a public location. I add the specificity because I think we all need to vent sometimes, but announcing it to a large group and or in a public place for anyone and everyone to hear is just malicious and disgusts me. Story 93. Misspelling basic like your versus your when they write. Bonus points if you gently try to correct them. For example, just writing your or similar. Obviously, don't do this when someone is telling you about their cancer or something, but you get my point. As someone who hires for a fairly large company, I will absolutely not hire anyone who makes asinine typos. Story 94. Wear shoes inside. You walk through the streets, stand in all sorts or gross-ass nasty bacterias, dirt, bird, dog, horse, dead bird, trash, and then walk that through your house. Gross. Then you eventually take your shoes off, transfer those outside germs to your feet, and then take those germs to bed. Disgusting. Story 95. Not doing basic cleaning. I'm in a college apartment and I'm the only one out of 4 roommates who's cleaned the common areas from dust, food, snow melt, and other things that just happen over time. Also, 2 of the roommates will go to the bathroom and not wash their hands. Thank God they share a bathroom apart from the other roommate and myself. I am using a disinfectant on the kitchen drawers and cabinets, light switches, doorknobs, etc. 3 times a week and hiding my personal things from them so they don't touch them. Story 96. Throwing another one in here for peeing in the shower. I do not care if the shower is where you get clean. Pissing in it is disgusting, especially if it's a shared shower. I do not want even the possibility of any remnants of your pee on my feet. I am in the mega minority in my friend group. I've never peed in the shower and never will. I can't get behind it. Story 97. I don't know if people think it's normal, but a long time ago, I had a manager come in with some new Starbucks drink, and they were discussing the taste, and 5 other employees tried it, all swigging from the same straw. She asked if I wanted to try, and when I said no thanks, she got defensive. Story 98. In the country I live in currently, it's not uncommon for people to not wear shoes while out and about. I kind of get it if you live in the suburbs or a small town, but living in the middle of a big city and seeing people with their dogs out walking on the gross as pavement baffles me. How they don't find that disgusting. Like your feet must be foul, lol. Story 99. Eating finger food while bowling. Unless you bring your own ball, it's so disgusting. So many dirty fingers in those ball holes. Also eating crabs. It's so savage and primal to watch essentially a water bug be ripped apart and its innards eaten. I still eat them, but it's still super gross. Story 100. This one is odd, I think, but when I'm having dinner with people, the sound of some people when they drink water or tea or whatever bothers me. And as soon as I hear it once, I can't stop noticing it. I've never said anything to anyone out about it because it's stupid, but it bothers me way more than it should. Story 101. I was 14 and just found the album to be raw and heavy and different, so I liked it mostly. Quickly got bored with how repetitive the compositions were, however, and didn't listen to it very much. It was the Some Kind of Monster movie that made me completely disillusioned, and after that the whole album left a bad taste in my mouth. Seeing James and Lars acting so insanely stupid and needing a therapist with them in the studio who had to treat them like spoiled children to get to them was disgusting. I get that they had real issues, but holy how cringe that movie was. Story 102. Some cat people in my life who let their cats on kitchen counters, tables, etc., or even have their food bowls up on the kitchen counter. I can't help but think that the cat just used his litter box and is now up and around people's food and touching surfaces you eat from. Story 103. Parents who record their children a lot. Not that I have a problem with parents capturing moments, just hate when they are only staring into the phone screen and not paying attention to it in person. Pay attention to your children in front of you and stop staring at your phone. Story 104. When people think it's okay to spit those super thick, green, yellow loogies in public areas where people commonly walk. Some of them look like you'd lose a flip-flop if you accidentally stepped on one. They are most commonly near parking spaces. Effing disgusting pig people. Almost makes me hurl when someone loads one in their throat too. Story 105, I'll probably show my age on this one, and it's not really disgusting as it's more annoying than anything, living with earphones. No more surrounding awareness. My family's been stupidly unaware an alarm is going off. They even become startled if they see anyone at home, not like they live alone. Dogs barking? Only I notice it. Phone ringing? Hey, only I can hear it. Knocking on the door? Again, who do you think can hear it? A car crashing through the kitchen? Meh, who cares? I've got TikTok going. Story 106. People who make out with their dogs. Just the utter uncleanly that comes from those people who let their dogs lick them in the face, mouth. Like literally you could tell them they are ingesting all kinds of fecal matter, debris and disgust all over their bedding and household anything, and they'll just tell you that's part of being a pet owner. Story 107, chewing gum. That should be illegal. Nothing ruins leaving quiet like some constantly chewing on a piece of glorified rubber. Not to mention that most people seem to just spit it out wherever, and it becomes a permanent feature of the sidewalk. Story 108. I used to work at an electronics store that sold cell phones. Customers, yes, plural, would bring in their phone, hand it to an employee, and tell them that it doesn't work. Employee would ask what happened to it, and the customer would say they dropped it in the toilet, and then complain to me because my employee would immediately drop their phone on the counter.